Hi, it's Ian, and thank you very much indeed for watching again. Don't forget you can subscribe at the end of this video. There's a way of subscribing. Just click on the thing which I think is it's either that side or that side, and you can watch them again because it gives you an option to watch as well. Tell your friends, send them around. If there's anything you want to comment about it, please do drop me a Twitter message at IdiotWithTheMic. It's down here on the bottom there, and yeah. Thank you very much. So a little bit about what I've done since the last one of these vlogs. I started to feel, I go through phases. I go through about 4 or 5 days of feeling all right and a bit of a fraud, like I should be back to normal and doing all sorts of stuff, like going out for a run and all that sort of thing. And then I have 2 or 3 days where I remember why I'm not doing those sort of energetic stuff, or that sort of energetic stuff. So last weekend, Thatcher's, the cider makers, had an open day. They're nearby to me. So I took my 2 lads. We went and had a look around there and was out for about 4 hours or so. Just milling around, pottering around. And that evening, the Saturday evening, I was like a zombie. But I figured, actually, do you know what? I feel all right in myself to a certain extent. So I'm going to go out again the following day. And then we had a 40-minute walk. That's all it was, 40 minutes around the woods, which is nearby to where I live. Came home, sat in front of the telly, and effectively was, well, I was in and out of sleep for the next 4 or 5 hours. I didn't feel great at all, and I put that down to overexerting myself a little bit, which is fine. I don't mind pushing, and I know what the negativity is, but you know, I've gathered through talking to other people that by pushing yourself, your brain or your brain relearns how you need to be. You're exercising it, and you know you don't grow muscles by not exercising and waiting for them to grow. So you actually have to keep pushing. So that's what I did, and I've had a couple of ropey days since. So today's not been a bad day today. So I thought, got to do one of these, and I'm going to speak to Pip Goddard, who's a former Devon teacher, now resident of Cambridge, and started off by asking Pip to what extent or how her stroke manifested.
It was a clot, as it turned out. I was very naughty. I ignored it. It was on the 21st of December, 2012. I'd finished school, the end of term for Christmas holidays, and we pulled back up onto the drive. I bent down to pick up my bag from the footwell, and I felt and heard a pop in the back of my head. So, and I couldn't do anything after that. I couldn't talk, I couldn't move, I couldn't do anything.
Wow. So there was a physical sensation. You actually felt almost like the snapping of a muscle in your leg or something. You felt something.
Yes, I did. Yes. Wow. Yeah. And I presented as if I was paralytic, absolutely paralytic. So my mind was still active, but what I wanted to say wouldn't come out. What I wanted to do, I couldn't do. The only way I can sort of describe it is if it's how I imagine locked-in syndrome would be. And it was awful.
So at that point, when you went into hospital, what
No,
were
I didn't.
No?
No, I refused to go into hospital.
Wow.
I would let them call the ambulance. About 20 minutes later, sort of the speech came back and I'd said, I'll be fine. It's okay. It was nothing. I knew what happened, and I think they knew what happened, but I persuaded them not to. So
what's your thought process then? If you knew what had happened, and this isn't an inquisition or anything, it's interesting because when it happened to me, and I didn't feel a sensation, I didn't have a pop or anything like that, I just started to get really dizzy. Again, like I was a little bit drunk, couldn't walk straight. I was always bearing off to the right and felt really very dizzy and uncoordinated. But I didn't do anything. Well, it's not that I didn't do anything. I felt I was too young for a stroke. Therefore, it didn't even appear on my thought process. I Googled what it was, and I could have been Bell's palsy, it could have been MS, it could have been a virus, it could have been food poisoning. And of course, being a bloke, and as it turns out, as a woman as well, you don't want to think about it and you don't do anything about it.
Nope.
So from my point of view, I didn't actually phone the doctor until the following morning, when I thought possibly there's something wrong here. Was that the sort of the similar thought process to you?
It wasn't. It wasn't. The other options didn't enter my head really. I had a good idea of what had happened. I don't know why. Sort of, I've been told I'm fairly intuitive, so I just thought I know what it was. But yeah, so I ignored mine for 3 weeks.
Wow. Okay, so I know then to compare, well, and I don't like comparing, but it's great to hear different stories because it just really underlines how everybody's stories are different. So from my point of view, the specialist said they could see where the clot had been, but they weren't 100% sure that it was a split blood vessel because it had healed in the 48 hours it had taken for me to have the scan. What had happened to you in the 3 weeks?
Well, I went to the GP and told them my symptoms and everything else, and they turned around and said nothing, absolutely nothing. Stroke didn't even sort of come up. I didn't mention it because I thought, well, perhaps I was wrong. They're doctors, they know. And she said to me, well, the best thing you can do is go home, put your symptoms in Google and see what comes up.
Okay.
So at that point, my husband grabbed my arm and said, we're going. I struggled for another 2 weeks, and then I went back and I actually saw my GP. And as soon as I told him the symptoms, he actually smacked my hand and said, you've had a stroke. So there was no two ways about it. He phoned up the hospital, but of course, obviously, because it was over a month, they wouldn't take me in the stroke department. So I went to general medicine, and actually I couldn't have wished for a better sort of.
Oh, that's good.
Once I was there, and obviously every time I saw a doctor, they told me off for leaving it so long, because they said it's an 85% chance of having another stroke within the first 4 weeks.
Wow.
So yeah. So finally, when I got all the MRIs done and everything else, I've got scarring on the back of my brain.
Yeah.
So yeah, and
that's a result of the length of time that was left, or is that a result of the physical stroke that you had, or do they not know?
They don't know the difference. Yes. And they don't know why I had a blood clot.
So it's coming up to, well, a couple of months, it'll be 7 years for you. So what does recovery look like? What kind of time frame would you say you're back to normal? One of the best things is that you can't tell if you look at you, and the same as me, no one would know.
No, and that's when I tell people, I turn around and say, oh, I had a stroke in 2012. Oh, you mean a TIA? And I went, no, a full-blown stroke. And they said, but you can't have done. And you just think sort of, well, I have, I've got the scarring and everything to prove it. But I just said I was so lucky, one, with the fact that obviously I left it, and two, with the fact that I have been left with virtually no symptoms. I've got memory loss of certain years and events that I can't remember at all. And I've got a sort of bit of weakness on my left side, but not that anybody would know unless they sort of knew about it. So, yeah.
Are you fairly constant with where you are, sort of physically, mentally, memory, all of that sort of stuff? Or does it come and go throughout a week or a month? Or
the tiredness comes and goes. The stroke I've accepted, and that was part of my life. And it will always be part of my life and it's part of me. I started going to the gym 6 months ago to sort of try and even up the sort of strength in both arms and legs. So yeah, I was off, I think, for about, just trying to think, nearly a year, and the school were fantastic. And then I went back on reduced hours, phase return and everything else. And there I didn't have an issue.
So we've established that although we've got very similar stories, there are a lot of differences, as will anybody who's been through this sort of process.
Yeah.
So rather than asking, and I'll do this every time I speak to somebody new, rather than asking them for advice for whoever's going through it, what advice would you give yourself now from your pre-stroke person, your pre-stroke you? What advice would you give you now?
I'd say look after yourself is the main thing. I've got weight issues. I was under a lot of stress actually at the time as well, and I think the two combined, it was just too much for my body to sort of accept. And that, the way I look at it, is that's what happened. It was my body's way of saying, you will slow down, you will take a rest, we're going to make sure you do.
A wake-up call.
It was a massive wake-up call. Yes, yeah. It has taught a lot of people, sort of like friends and family, that I wasn't even 50 at the time when it happened. So that obviously it can happen.
Well, as you can see, I'm 23.
Exactly. Yes.
But what's brilliant, Pip, thank you very much for spending some time chatting with me. What's great is to get a different perspective of the same thing.
Yes, yeah, and that is the thing. It is called the same thing, but the causes and the outcomes are so different for everybody. So.
And thanks to Pip. Thank you very much indeed, Pip, for spending a little bit of time this afternoon. Very much appreciated. So, as I say, it's as much for me, this vlog, because I then get to kind of talk about it, going through my own little rehab, if you like. I get to realise that other people have similar or different symptoms. We are not the same, but the same at the same time, if that makes sense. Please do subscribe. One of these buttons here is the round one. And if you'd like to watch any of the other episodes as well, there's a link to be able to go back to the beginning. So that would be great. And if you want to get in touch or be a part of it yourself, then you can do it through Twitter, at IdiotWithTheMic. Again, there we go, at IdiotWithTheMic. And until next time, thank you very much indeed. And keep talking about it.